Good morning, y'all. Welcome to Old Dog Woodshop. Nice rainy day out here in Middle Tennessee today, so I'm out here in the shop fiddling around. And what we're going to partake in building today is a centerpiece for your table, or for a wedding centerpiece or gifts or things of that nature. It's you put quart mason jars in it and put your flowers in it. Let me show you what it looks like. I done built one or two. Basic construction. It's made out of a cedar fence picket. You may or may not have guessed. You can make two of these out of one fence picket. What you do, this will hold 3 mason jars. Okay. Of course, you get you some pliers and put them in your mason jar. Makes a good centerpiece. Be good for weddings. Be able to give it as gifts. You know, you put live flowers in there. You got your mason jars you can put water in, put some feed in. As I said, this project takes one fence picket for 2 of these holders. Go ahead and give you the parts list. Of course, I don't have a drawing or anything like that. I just wrote down my parts as I went about. Basically, what you're going to need, these are all square cut. Of course, if you want to get fancy, you can miter the corners if you so choose. I did not choose to do that. These are all square cut pieces. We'll start out by listing your parts. Your bottom part is going to be 4 inches wide by 12.5 inches long. Okay, that's just right for 3 quart-sized mason jars. And you can readjust the size if you want to do 4 or 5 or whatever. Your end pieces, of course, they're the same width, 4 inches. These are going to be 4.5 inches long. Okay. You need 2 of these. You're going to need 4 side brace strips, which are 1 inch by 12.5. Now you can make these a little thicker or what have you, but that 1 inch seems to look fairly decent. You're also going to need 4 end pieces that are 1 inch by 5. Now this is the only part where the dimension may change. And why I say that is I plane down, since I have a planer, I plane down my fence picket to a 1/2 inch. So that allows me to get an accurate measurement on this end piece. If you don't have a planer, you can sand your fence picket, but most people know that the fence pickets are various thicknesses, mostly 5/8. So what you'd have to do is adjust the length of your end piece to match the total width after you've added your side pieces on. Okay? Very simple process. With that said, what we're going to do, I've already planed down a fence picket, and it's a colorful one too. I kind of like the way it looks. But what we're going to do is we'll move over to the miter saw, and we'll start cutting our parts out. Probably, if you listen close enough, you'll hear the rain hitting my tin roof. If it gets to raining too hard, then I'll have to pause until it gets so noisy in here you can't even hear yourself think. So what we'll do initially is we're going to square off the end of our fence picket. Also take caution that you need to wear hearing protection. I wear hearing protection. These are flange earplugs. You can get at Lowe's or whatever. You got to protect that hearing. You don't have too much of it, so you need to protect it the best way you can. Just take enough off of this fence picket to square it up. Okay, what we're going to do now is I need to rip my fence picket to 4 inches from my bottom and end pieces, but I don't want to rip the whole length. So what I'll do is I'll measure out your bottom piece is 12.5, Okay? So 2 pieces would be 25 inches. And then you got your end pieces, which are 4.5. So 2 pieces for each one is 9 inches, so you'll need 18 inches to add to that. Okay? 25 and 18 is 43. Yeah, 43 inches. So go ahead and we'll measure down. Got to allow for your curve for your blade. So we'll go ahead and measure down 44 inches. That'll give us a little extra. The other pieces are going to be 12.5 inches long and 5 inches respectively. That leaves you 25, 26 inches on the end of your fence picket so you can cut your strips. Plus you're going to have a strip down the side when we trim the 4 inches off. We'll go ahead and make a mark. Go ahead and make a mark. We'll go ahead and describe us a line. And we'll go ahead and cut that off. I'm going to swap this around because I got my camera stuck in the way all the way down at the end. I don't want to knock it over. So swap it around. Get on our mark. We'll go ahead and make a cut. Okay, what we want to do now is I'll take this piece over to the table saw and I'll rip me a 4-inch strip all the way down through. I'll take my remaining piece and I'll cut this into 1-inch strips so we can make our side rails and our end rails. So let's go ahead and shoot over to the table saw. I'll go ahead and set my table saw up for 4 inches. And we'll make our first cut on that long piece. Once I get this cut down to 4 inches, we will also have to go back over to the miter saw to finish up. Okay, so I look my design on my board. I got a big old knot right there, so I'm going to keep that in the middle. So we'll go ahead and swing it around, make our cut. Got our 4-inch strip. What I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and cut my 1-inch strips. I reset my table saw. Reset it to 1 inch. I'll go ahead and cut this into 1-inch strips and then we'll meet you back over at the miter saw. Alright, what we're going to do now is we'll go ahead and cut our bottoms and our end pieces. So our bottom piece is 12.5. We'll go ahead and make a mark at 12.5. Scribe us a line, and we'll go ahead and cut that piece. Need one more piece at 12.5. What you can do is go ahead and just run your other piece down, butt it up on the end, slide it down so it touches your saw blade. Go ahead and make that cut. That gives you your 2 pieces that are 12.5 inches long. Okay. What we should have now is a piece that's 18 3/4. We need 4 pieces that are 4.5 inches long. So go ahead and mark my first one. 4.5 inches. And I'll go ahead and scribe me a line. Now you can make these in bulk. What you'll do here, we'll go ahead and get the saw set up, and then we'll put in a stop block. Okay, so we'll set that right there, and we can put in a stop block. This little leftover piece of wood here. Put me a clamp on it. So we'll go ahead and make our cut. Always make sure your saw stops before you pick it up. Okay, we need 4 of those. I'll go ahead and cut those. Once I get those cut, we'll move over to the assembly table. Oh, wait a minute. Once I get those cut, I'll be right back. I near got ahead of myself a little while ago. What we need to do now is cut our side rails, 12.5 inches long. Went ahead and made a mark on one piece, 12.5 inches. Okay, I'll get it set up and I'll put in a stop block for 12.5 inches. Gotta get me a different piece of wood. That one's a little short. That, put a clamp on it. We'll go ahead and we'll cut one and we'll make sure it's right, and then we'll cut the rest. Okay, 12.5. We'll go ahead and cut the rest of these. We need a total of 8. What we need to do now is we're going to need a total of 8 pieces that are 5 inches long. So I've got one piece that I had for a template. We'll go ahead and set the saw. Set me a stop block for 5 inches. And I need 8 of those pieces. Make sure each time you run your saw, you cut, let the saw come to a stop. And what you can do is go ahead and set more than one piece on there at a time. And get 2 at a time or 3. This one here is a little short to hold on to, so I'm going to move over here and I'll hold this piece. But stay away from the blade. 5, I need 3 more. I'll cut the remaining couple and then we'll move over to the assembly table. This will be all the parts we need. Back over to the assembly table here, if you'll notice this little pile I got right here. This right here is what's left over from the fence picket. After cutting all the parts, got one thin strip. Got this piece here, it's about 3/4 inch wide. And then these 2 little end pieces. That's it. Very little waste in this project. Got all our parts laid out here. We got our 2 bottom boards. We got our 4 end pieces. We got 8 5-inch end pieces. And we got 8 12.5-inch side pieces. We're going to use Type Bond 3 and 1-inch brads to assemble this project. Alright, to assemble what we're going to start out with 2 of the end pieces, which is 4 by 4.5 inches. There's my grain pattern. Kind of lines up with the bottom. Trying to keep the grain pattern going. Okay. Now these pieces, the bottom is going to sit on top of these pieces. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get these put together. Run us a bead of glue. down this piece here. Y'all may be able to hear it raining. It's been raining pretty steady. We ain't had no rain in about 3 or 4 weeks. So it was getting kind of dry. It's in a drought condition here in Middle Tennessee. But it's coming. We need it. Got to make sure that your piece is flush on the end and flush on the sides. Then we'll go ahead and shoot a brad into it. We'll go ahead and do the same thing on this other side. Throw some piece of glue down there. Make sure your end is flush. Got a little bleed out on the glue, that's fine. Go ahead and throw us a couple of brads in it. Okay, wipe off any excess glue. Do now is we'll go ahead and start with our 1-inch side rails. Throw us a bead of glue up there. We'll do the one on top first. This will kind of help line everything up. Make sure it's flush with the top and square on the end. Throw you in a brad nail. Make sure you keep your fingers out of the way. Flush on the end and the side. I got me a little hostler on the side of my workbench where I hang my brad nailer. That way I don't knock it off. Do the same thing for this bottom rail. We'll put it in place, and we're going to line it flush with the end and flush with the bottom. Throw you in a brad nail. You don't really need glue all the way down. What you can do is just throw a brad right here in the center. Just kind of hold that in place. You want to do the same thing on the other side. Top piece, bottom piece. Throw a bead of glue down there. I went ahead and took me a sanding block, this here sanding block that I got, and I knocked the rough edges off of these boards after I cut them. I don't really need to do very much sanding because I run the board through the planer. So it kind of worked out. Put this bottom piece in. Throw me a big brad right in there. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we'll shift over and put the end pieces on right here. Same process that you use for the side pieces, you're going to do on the end. So go ahead and put a bead of glue there. Set your end block in. Line it up with the top, flush on the sides. Throw you in a brad nail. Do the same thing on the bottom. Flush it up with the bottom. We'll flip it around, we'll do the same thing on the other end. You don't need very much glue. You don't need glue all the way across. And the side end pieces, you really don't need to put a brad in the center like you did on the side. They're not near as long. All right, we got all our parts assembled. The only thing I want to do now, now that I've got everything assembled, is we'll go ahead and take the router and then we'll round over the top as well as the bottom. I've installed a 1/4 inch round over bit in my handheld router. Get it down there, adjust it. I'll run over the outside, inside perimeter, and then the outside the bottom. Nice and smooth. Next, what we need is some mason jars. Get your mason jars, set her in there. Got your mason jars set in there. Get you some flowers. Put your flowers in there. Now these are plastic flowers, but you can get live ones. Put water in there if you so choose. Make a nice looking tabletop centerpiece. You can also hand these out as gifts if you got a bunch of people going to your wedding. Like I say, you can make 2 of these with 1 fence picket. Now I made 3 different designs during the process. I made the one we just finished building with the 2 end pieces. Then I made one that has a single end piece where you can use it as a handle. And then I made one with no end piece, just a flush end. They all can be painted, stained, sealed, what have you, but you know, each design or each fence picket comes with different colors. I like to keep everything natural myself personally, but as I said, you can use this for multiple gifts. This makes wonderful items, you know, Mother's Day, or just a loving day you feel you need to love your wife a little bit, just give her one of these. With that said, that's the end of this project. You can probably get $10 or $15 for this one piece. So you take 1 cedar fence picket, run about $3.50, $4, $20 for 2, or $30. Pretty good profit. I appreciate y'all watching and sharing and liking these videos. Continue to support, and we'll see what we can do next. With that said, this is Old Dog. We're out. Y'all be safe and try to stay dry today. Have a good one.